listen to law enforcement. We received updates on what's going on in Pueblo, what the situations are. And today we're turning it over to community members who are working to prevent gangs in our community. So I'd like to introduce and let everybody know who's here on our panel. We have Floyd Armijo from the east side.
I'm from the east side.
We have John Walker from the Pueblo City-County Library District. We have Amy King from Heroes in Pueblo, or HIP.
Heroes in Pueblo Schools.
Heroes in Pueblo Schools, thank you. And we have Joe Latino from the Pillars of Unity.
The first question was asked is what gang activity do you see? We ourselves haven't seen any gang activity, but we know that it's there. We know that there's tagging that's going on in the four quadrants of the city, of this community. We know that there's local talk within the community. We know that the community is alarmed. We know that there's been a number of senseless killings of young people that have not had a chance to see what life is all about. It's not only a problem here, but it's a national issue. The rise of the criminal culture has expanded itself. You can attach that to whatever you want: gun violence, drugs, or the right to bear arms concerning gun violence. The massacres that have occurred, 2 of them in Colorado at Columbine, of which my children went to Columbine. The coach who was killed at Columbine coached for me. The principal at Columbine coached for me. The football coach coached for me. And so we can look at the Aurora theaters and we can look at the other incidents that have happened. So basically, it's a culture where at times it's out of control. We have ISIS involved in all of these things now, and so everybody is alarmed. The world is alarmed. In any case, our purpose is to bring people together. Okay.
Amy, what gang activities do you see?
So first I'd like to just give a synopsis of HIP, so we're all on the same page with that. Heroes in Pueblo Schools started up this year as a natural progression. We were already there's a small group of us had already been volunteering at Minnequa Elementary. Saw phenomenal outcomes, huge reduction in discipline referrals to the principal's office, almost cut in half from one year to the next. And a lot of it we think had to do with this increased presence of caring adults. So just so we know, right now it is at one school. This is where we're piloting, and it has the potential to expand. It's a bridge for community members to come in and volunteer, have a schedule for the day where they're in different classrooms supporting the teachers, working one-on-one with some of the students, eating lunch with them, recess, developing some relationships, mentorship, that sort of thing. So the perspective that we're going to have, or I'm going to have, and a lot of this is my perspective. I'm not representing the whole school district. It's what I've observed, what I've gleaned from other staff members, other volunteers. I've asked for their feedback as well. But that's our scope right now. So in terms of overt activity, fortunately we haven't seen any this year. There has been some in the past with some of the older kids, 5th grade, 6th grade. We've not seen that. We have seen more subtle stuff, gang signs as young as preschool. We're on social media. Some of the youngsters that are on social media flashing gang signs, maybe clothing with affiliation coming in. The norms at home sometimes or on the street, the kids can kind of glamorize some of that gangsta lifestyle. Try to emulate the language, the dress, kind of think it's hip and cool. So you do see some of that. We see it from the parents. The parents coming in with their tattoos, with their gang affiliation and that stuff, but it's been respectful. There's not been issues with that. And when the parents have been spoken to about gang flashing or that sort of thing, uniformly they've said, oh, that's not cool, my kid knows not to do that in school. Kind of like it's okay at home, but not at school. But the impact of the violence that we have in the community impacts the kids hugely. They have fear, anxiety, a lot of the stuff that we see happening. This is the schools in Bessemer that we're at. A lot of the violence, they have family members on both sides of this. So this is the world that they're growing up in. So the other part of that is their belief system, which I think is the biggest thing of all. Their belief system is developing right now. Is this a safe place for me to be? Do my neighbors care about me? Can I succeed? Is there hope? So for the Heroes in Pueblo schools that are there, we want them to know, yes, there are those opportunities. Yes, that there are people that care about you. We want to see you succeed. So creating a culture of hope is a lot of what we want to be part of.
Thank you very much. So my name's John Walker, as I was introduced, and I have the privilege to serve as the executive director for the Pueblo City-County Library District. I want to give a little context too to why is the library district up here on this panel today, and I'm not an expert in gangs. I'm not an expert in criminal activities, what causes them, or really how to effectively address that problem. That's not my area of expertise. I'm a librarian. I do consider myself to be an expert in how to run effective public libraries. So that's my area of expertise. And as a public library expert, what I can tell you is that public libraries typically reflect the community in which they exist, the neighborhood in which they exist, or more broadly, the community. The same people who live, work, and go to school in that neighborhood are the same people who are going to use the public library. It is a reflection of the community or the neighborhood. So we have a new library on the east side of the city of Pueblo. The Pueblo City-County Library District opened a library there a little over 1 year ago. And prior to opening the Patrick A. Lucero Library on the east side, we studied the community. We studied the neighborhood, and we knew about the socioeconomic demographics of that neighborhood going in. We understood, at least from an academic perspective, sort of what we were getting into by opening this library. We carried out 2 very in-depth studies of the neighborhood. We looked at demographics, income, education, population growth, market indicators, so that we could understand what that neighborhood looks like. We did focus group meetings. Several of the people who are in this room today who represent that neighborhood were at some of those meetings. We worked with local neighborhood associations. We worked with local churches, philanthropic groups, and others before we opened the library. And a year ago, after a lot of work and effort, we did open the library. We did understand, though, that the median household income of that neighborhood is just under $25,000. That's the median household income of the Pueblo East Side neighborhood. Now, you probably know your own income, so compare that to your own income and compare that as a median household income. The average in the city of Pueblo, on average, is $35,000. Pueblo is not a wealthy community, which I think we all in this room know. And so it's poorer than average in the state of Colorado and nationally. And the East Side neighborhood is a poor neighborhood within what is really not an affluent community generally. We knew that almost 1 in 3 on the East Side live in poverty, compared with a countywide 17%. So these are things we sort of academically knew going into this neighborhood. We also know that there are as many police calls in a 2 square mile radius coming out from the Lucero Library as in all of the unincorporated areas of Pueblo County combined. So we know that there's a lot of crime in this neighborhood. So we knew all of this stuff. And then we opened a library a year ago. And I point to my left because Diane Logie, who, as she introduced herself, is our little Mother Teresa in the East Side Library there. And I say that, I've said that before, and I mean it genuinely, because she cares a lot. I also know this as a public librarian, that public libraries are more needed in that sort of socioeconomic environment than they are in a wealthy environment. We have a library in Pueblo West. If you look at the socioeconomic indicators for Pueblo West, they're much different than the East Side. The dynamics of that library are much different than the dynamics on our Lucero library. But that library is more busy on a per-minute basis than any other library that we have. There's a great need there. And we see lots of people, particularly young people, using that library. And that's why the Board of Trustees decided to invest more than $2 million to provide a modern public library in this neighborhood. A couple of years ago, we opened it. It's got all the modern amenities that any public library would have: public use computers, books, public space for study and learning. What gang activity do we see? Well, we see gang activity at this library, and just like Amy said, some of it is in just the way that she described it emanating at the school that she's in the Minnequa school. Young people who are sort of imitating or mimicking what they see their role models, which typically are whatever adults they have in their lives, or older people who have in their lives. That's who they emulate, and that's who they mimic. So we see that going on. We also see pressure. We see peer pressure. From older adolescents and OGs who are pressuring younger people to sort of join their lifestyle. We see that peer pressure. We also see adults who display some of the gang sort of signing or tattooing. We also, the respect that Amy described, we also experience that respect. When it's addressed in a respectful way with them, we get a respectful response. We also know that if we don't address it in a respectful way with them, we don't get a respectful response. Now, think of your own life. When you're addressed respectfully, you typically are more prone to respond respectfully, and when you aren't treated respectfully, you're more prone to not respond respectfully. Same thing happens with us in the public library there. We do see activity from the Dukes and the Aces. Our public libraries reflect the neighborhoods in which they are located. Though the Sarah Library is no different. Gangs are an issue in the neighborhood, and they are an issue at the library. And I'll have more to say about some of the other things in a moment.
Thank you, John. Are you done? All I have here is a map of the city of Pueblo. And like I said, I live on the east side, and I live in Dogpatch, kind of like in the heart of Little Ace. And they're always having confrontation with the Dukes. It's territory. But anyway, look around. We're Democrat, we're Republican. We've been fighting for turf for years. So what's really the difference? All our kids are asking for right now is just a good opportunity where they can get a good chance. A lot of kids, they come from broken homes, and that's the sad part. And what are we doing about it? Not much. The majority of you people here, I've held events for the last 12, 14 years, trying to make a positive difference. I've coached with youth organizations for over 30 years to try to make a big positive difference. And I would like to tell you is my family, my grandkids, all of them have gone on to higher education. One was even valedictorian at Centennial this past year, and she's going on to School of Mines. And that's all I'm trying to say is, I live in that neighborhood, and I try to help the kids as much as I can. I try to make a positive difference. And I shouldn't be saying I, but it's all of us. We all have to work together. This is one big issue that we have to solve. And if we work together, we can solve it. I go to church a lot, and I see our churches are empty, but our taverns, our beer joints, our liquor stores are jam-packed. Why? And what are your kids learning? What are they learning?
Okay, so the next question we'll have the panel address is, where are you and your organization going for resources? Or are there models that you follow?
You know, Sarah, there is no model that we're following. Folks, there is no model that we're following. Each of us have our own strengths. Three of the five of us have been in other places around this country and have worked in other places. I spoke specifically about Denver. I started out in Santa Fe, New Mexico. I have a part-time job that I go to that's a fun job in Phoenix, Arizona. I work for the Colorado Rockies and Arizona Diamondbacks. It's a fun job. I'm not there all year, I'm there spring training. And it's something that came as a result of my background. So being in other places, and I'll speak specifically about what they're doing in Phoenix, Arizona as it relates to gangs, as it relates to the police department shortage of 400 officers in the 5th largest city in America, where they got 2,700 police officers. Okay, I'll talk about that a little bit later. But our strengths come from the fact that we've been in other places. We've done other things. Our heart, obviously, we've come back to Pueblo. And we came back for a reason, as many have. Because there has been a sense of community, there was a sense of community. And so we're trying to bring things together, to bring people together. And that's what Pillars of Unity is all about. Bring everybody together so that we're all on the same page. Law enforcement, education, community activists, or the community businesses, small businesses, individuals. We've had a number of calls. I've had a number of calls. I had a mother call last night. I talked to her son. It'll break your heart. She's saying, I need help. He's trying, but he was on heroin, cocaine, and the marijuana didn't help. You want to cry. These people are searching for answers. And there's a group of people here that can help if we can all come together. So basically, you know, we've had support from the media, from TV, from the chieftain, Steve Henson, and those folks there, the Rawlings. Ryan Severance is here today. Everybody is concerned. You're concerned because you're here today. So it's coming together, and we're working on a strategic plan. We've met with school board members, newly elected school board members. They were at our last meeting, and Crime Stoppers has gotten involved, and so we're gradually putting things together. One of the new city council people, Lori Winter, asked to be involved. She called us and said, I'd like to be a part of this. So hopefully, and we're working with the religious factions in the community to try and unite the community. We have to start with religion, with the religious factions. We're talking about empty churches, as Floyd alluded to. We're working with them to try to get them involved with us so that we can all be on the same page. The spiritual mind, the emotional mind, and the physical mind. That's what it's all about, bringing people together. These kids that are gang members, all they want is some recognition. We have a former gang member with us today, Paul Sandoval. He came on his own. He came on his own. Nobody asked him to come. He came on his own. He's done something with his life. Paul, you want to stand up and say a few things?
I'd just like to say that over the last 20 years I spent in the penitentiary, and what I've seen, how people end up making that life, and they're coming here to Pueblo. But you don't even know, half of the people here in Pueblo is out from the penitentiary. And the stigma of them coming out working and trying to get an opportunity to even get a good job is not good. So they have to go back to what they're good at doing. And we all pay the price. I'm not proud to say I did 20 years, but I had a life sentence. And I got out on a mistake from a police officer. And so out of that, I got to use my experience to help others. And if I never do that, I still have to do it for myself. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Paul. Thank you. I'm pretty much done with that, Sarah.
And so for HIP, where we go for resources, the community. It's a community partnership with the school. So we've held recruitment information nights and have had an outstanding response for the community. I think the first one we held, we had 30 people come, 20 applied to be volunteers. A lot of them have started. We had a second one, I think at least maybe 10 or 20 came, 5 to 10 applied, passed they did the background test right on the site. It was awesome. So that's huge. And some of it's parents too. It's not just the community. It's modeled, going to that part of the question, it's modeled after the Watchdog program. That was kind of the first seed. Christina Krumholz, who was the counselor at Minnequa, at one point had been the counselor at Fountain and Minnequa. And she is an outstanding counselor, very innovative, and had instituted the Watchdog program at both of the schools. Watchdog, dog stands for Dads of Great Kids. It came about in the Midwest when there'd been some violence and kids were afraid to go to school. So fathers started going to school with their kids and helped all the kids feel safer. And they found, wow, there's less discipline. The kids are really responding to this, and it became a nationwide program. So flash forward to here in Pueblo, Christina rolled it out at both of the schools, had recruitment nights. I think Fountain had about 200 show up. I think Minnequa had 7 or 8, and maybe 3 or 4 passed the background test. So already you can kind of see the difference of who's got the examples, who's got the role models in the school. And so I had been volunteering there a couple years ago, and the kids would look at me and say, "Are you a watchdog?" And another kid, so she can't be a dog. And I didn't want to wear the t-shirt, and it didn't feel right. And talking to the counselor and talking to the principal, it's like, she said, yeah, we need we need women mentors too. They need good role models of all sorts, and the community, bridging the community into this. Not all parents can volunteer for a lot of different reasons. Some are just working a lot of jobs. There's also a lot of single parenthood. There's a lot of incarceration. There's all sorts of reasons. So we reach out to the community to get the community involved. That includes parents and family members. We've had guest speakers come in, ex-gang members come in and talk to the kids, giving presentations and question-answer sessions. There was a time where at the sheriff's department there was a gentleman that was involved coming and speaking with the kids. That's more so when there was more activity. Right now they haven't seen that. A lot of the HIP volunteers have been part of the help facilitating with the counselor boys and girls groups that they have. Some of the kids that deal with self-esteem issues, some of the boys. Judge Reyes had taken a team of a boys group to the mountain park and had an experience there. The counselor and him took a field trip to Denver, showing them different opportunities there. A lot of it is about showing opportunities. They have Career Cafe, and I'm kind of morphing into things that aren't necessarily HIP, but there's overlap. Courtney came just this week, and so every month there's Career Cafe, where the 5th and 6th graders get to hear from somebody in the community about a job that they could potentially hold. Here's something you could do. Here's how much school you would need. Give it more exposure, broadening their worlds. If they don't know about it, how can it be within their scope? We can't be. We have to have exposure. And then just within, they have resources within the school. They have counselors, teachers, the administration. They're working really hard to develop a culture of hope and potential and opportunity. They have a Why Try program that the counselors have started there. It's twice weekly, really working on character development. And again, creating that culture of hope and who am I and who do I want to be? And there's a hero theme throughout the school, so be a hero, and what are those characteristics, and recognizing that everyone has the capacity to be a hero and show compassion and kindness towards others, and really develop that part of their consciousness, develop that so it's within their cells, and they go out into the world, and that's what they want to be.
So the question is, where are you and your organization going for resources, and are there models you follow? The library district, we do work with a number of local organizations and local individuals. We work with the Pueblo Police Department, for instance. We have a police officer present at the Lucero Library every day that it's open. We work with the Pueblo County Sheriff's Department. They've done different support activities for us there at the Lucero Library. And other safety and security experts. Again, that's not my bailiwick, but we do have those resources in our community. And we're very fortunate, and I feel very good about the support we're getting. We work with gang intervention groups. In particular, we're working with Hard Knocks gang prevention program, and we have an active program at the library in that regard. And I think with some positive results, positive impact. We're getting positive feedback. It's not easy. It's really not easy. And I really appreciate Mr. Sandoval's comments. It's just not easy. We work with mental health support agencies like Spanish Peaks. We work with neighborhood associations like the East Side Neighborhood Association. We work with the City of Pueblo. When Mr. Atencio was on City Council before, he was early on in helping facilitate our process toward a library on the east side. Mr. Jaramillo was also very instrumental in that process. So individuals, the city, have been good partners with us. And of course we work with Pueblo City Schools as well. We have a school right across the street where we work very collaboratively with Heaton Middle School, and we have elementary schools nearby as well. And we see lots and lots of kids in this library. A new program that we're starting in this year, we haven't started it yet, is we will have a social worker on staff in this library. This is not typical. You don't usually go into a library and find a social worker. Yeah. That's not typical, but we're going to do that in this library. We see a different sort of need in this particular facility, and this is not something that's unique to Pueblo. Denver Public Library has been doing this, San Francisco Public Library. There are a few examples around the country of this, and we're going to borrow that and try that here in Pueblo. We see that sort of need, which we don't really see in our other libraries. Our aim there is just to use a trained professional to address the needs of those who visit the library who are in that sort of need. We are librarians. We're more about providing access to free and open access to information, supporting literacy, and those kind of things. And we're seeing this other kind of need pop up on a consistent basis. And so that's pretty much my response to that question. Floyd.
Okay. Okay. We've gone to the police department and we had neighborhood watch signs posted all over Eastwood Heights. They're all over. As you come in, as you exit, they're all over. That really helped our community, the neighborhood watch. At one time we had a communication tree, but people die off and stuff like that. So. And also the library. The library has been very instrumental to a lot of our youth. And I'm a firm believer, if you want your child to succeed, teach them how to read. And that's where we're failing also. A lot of our kids don't know how to read. So we're still working on a lot of stuff. Thank you.
To me, for the remaining couple minutes of minutes.
All I want to say is we have our Mama's Christmas stocking giveaway. Ryan was there. And we gave out over 600 stockings to the kids. And in our community, all we're trying to do was create love, faith, hope, and unity for the whole city of Pueblo. What was special was that the library was there. Diane Logie, she brought books so we can give to the kids. And we had our police officers there. We had like 12 of them. They were off duty, and they came in uniform to be a part of that event. And it was beautiful. People were interacting with police officers, taking pictures. And at our backpack giveaway at Bradford, Captain Medina was there, and a few other sheriff officers. They were going around putting sheriff badges on parents and kids, and everyone loved that. There could be a good positive change coming with officers and communities, but we have to work together, and we have to invite each other. Like Larry said, we can't be exclusive. We have to be inclusive. We're a city of 104,000 people. Let's wake up, people. Thank you.
And I'd like to add one thing too. Our last question was about what type of impact can a grassroots effort have on the community. And I think everything, it's everything. Our real power lies more in that than what one person or one group can do. It's what every individual, we're like cells in a body, right? I mean, we're in the community health center, right? You have some cells that are healthy, but then you have a lot of unhealthy cells, or God forbid, cancer, you know. It's when each cell starts turning over and we touch each other and we touch the community and different cells are popping and waking up. So everyone just doing their one thing, if that's it. Maybe it's volunteering, maybe not. Maybe just making healthy choices yourself, like Mr. Jaramillo was saying, you know, in the beginning about, you know, more pubs being packed, you know, than spiritual places. What type of example are we setting? Just do that. Just make a healthier choice for yourself. You know, once I thought I would change the world, then I was wise and I changed myself? You know, just do that. So, but that's where our real power lies.